Oh, why don't I just get the actual song? Welcome back, Bell Reaver. Everybody joined. I wasn't able to look it up. All right, go live with Bell Reaver. Courage Bear, welcome, welcome.
All right. Hello, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Perfect. So since we ended on that kind of sad, or not sad, but I guess unfortunate is a better word for it. I've got
Well, not unfortunate. It's just a reality of life.
Yeah, it's a challenge to overcome, is the word that Warbeard likes. I've got a very, 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 very awesome story that's very related, but not with my mom. It's with the wife. So
all right,
I took her out to eat today. We got like Korean food at a little restaurant. Had a great time, and so I've been telling her that I want us to homeschool the children and keep them out of public school and all this stuff. And I'm giving her like concrete examples of sort of people that went through public school in my life. They're now dead, or they're just constantly on drugs. That wasn't very effective. I also showed her, like, I said, my mom is like, if you follow the American culture to a T, you get like that. And sort of, this is why it actually kind of helps, because the more my mom went down that path of the zeitgeist, the current American culture, my wife saw it and was like, I do not want to have my daughter be going through that. So now she's telling me that she is coming over to my way of thinking, and she wants to homeschool.
Nice.
So that's a really, really awesome thing. And the Japanese people, I don't know how they are in Japan, but maybe the same in Japan, but in the US, they're very conforming, and they kind of like to just fit in, and they're very like pro public school, pro get your kid a quote unquote normal lifestyle. Because her objections were like, but that won't be normal, and she won't have any friends and all this stuff. And I'm like, I said, look, I just looked up a homeschooling group in California. Here's 5 families. Homeschoolers usually have a lot of kids, so that's a whole lot of kids that are going to be there. Also, if you want, we can move to an area that has like a lot of, the average age is young, so there's probably a lot of kids running around, a lot of married couples, and we can get them exposed that way. And then she's like, yeah, okay. She kind of got silent. And then now, like, it's worked on her. She's like, I'm doing it. And I'm like, yeah. And that, I hope my mom finds her way back, but her kind of descending into the nonsense of the American current culture is kind of made it where my child won't be exposed to it as much, and will be inoculated because she sees what the result is. You know what I mean?
Dude, you're taking the exact right path. And the deeper, like, your daughter gets, I guess, indoctrinated with homeschool and Christian and conservative beliefs.
Exactly.
Like, the more she's going to be able, like, when grandma's like, nonsense, your daughter's going to be naturally like,
going to be able to see
grandma, like, this is what I believe.
Exactly. And that's, hopefully that's really what I want, because I don't want to, I know my mom deep down, like, my dad's a little different. He's got a different demon. He just doesn't want to see my kid, doesn't want to see me. But my mom still wants to see my daughter, but then, like, she's so deep into that culture where it's like she's not her, but her ideas are really a poison. So it's like, I want her, I know she's in there, and I want her to see my granddaughter, but I don't want her to pass on those nasty ideologies as you called them before.
Yep. I'm not a father yet, but I'm also already, like, not with my mom. My mom's the greatest, but, like, my dad, he's got a lot of these kinds of tendencies, and so it's like, I've been trying to talk to my dad, and he just doesn't want to hear any of it. But it's like, Dad, like, we've got some issues to resolve, because one day I'm gonna have kids, and I want you to have a relationship with your grandkids. But right now, I don't trust you around like my potential grand or my
Right,
potential kids, you know.
right. Because at the end of the day, they're probably more important than your relationship with your parent if they're actually that, if they're actually
Yeah,
like that. Like
and
you have to look after your kids first, and then maybe they'll come too. The
and
parents.
Bajo Bear is bringing in a bit of reality that we all already know, but like it's kind of a tough pill to swallow. I hate to break it to you, not everyone wakes up,
I
and that's
know.
something
I
we
fully
have to
know.
like grandma may not wake up, my dad might not wake up, and like that's something like obviously we all want those close to us to wake up and draw closer to Christ in various ways.
But
But
they may not, and
yeah,
but
not everyone has the eyes to see nor the ears to hear, and
right, and
that's okay.
it's almost like I I don't know the biblical verse for this, but maybe they're supposed to, because what I'm seeing that my mom's doing for her life is not, it's really not that good. But for my daughter's life, it's decent because she has done a world of good to persuade my wife into not sending the kid to public school, my child to
Well,
public
dude,
school.
that's Romans 8:28.
So you know it then.
It's like
Perfect.
yeah,
Awesome.
Romans 8:28 is basically like what man means for evil, God uses for good. So it's like this negative influence of the
Grandma.
grandmother has been used by the Lord to influence your wife to do more homeschooling.
It's, I like that a lot because then I don't have to like be really angry with my mom for pushing
Yeah,
negative
like
influence because it actually had it was intended to be negative, but it's gonna have a positive effect. That's awesome, man.
well, like so it's like your mom like is it your mom or your mom-in-law?
Mom-in-law is just in Japan and not really bothering anybody at all, and actually really cool. Like I know like a very small Japanese, and she knows very small English, so together we can almost communicate. She's a very
Right.
nice lady. She was the one
Yeah,
that
so like think about it this way. Like your mom has the best intentions, but because of how many levels of deception she has subscribed to,
yeah, and there's reasons for
her
that
best
too.
intentions
She was molested
aren't
very
good.
young and all this.
Yeah, so it's like she's doing her best because like
Exactly.
she's trying to
That's really the feeling that I get because she buys us a lot of like toys. She wants to see my daughter. She's like really trying to be present, but then, her ideology is the problem. But
yeah.
she's actually given, she gives a shit. She's trying. So
And so
ideally she's cuts out the nonsense stuff, and then it's but like Bajo was saying that may never happen.
well, so is your dad still in your life?
My dad, we tried. I go over there with my wife, my daughter for dinner. He would have me pick up like Mexican food and he'd pay for it. And then what the guy does is he drinks, has me drink, offers, not forces me, but he says, "Hey, would you like a drink?" And I'm like, "Yeah, sure." And then he gets very, very upset with me and starts tearing into me for a whole bunch of stuff. And then my wife leaves with the daughter, with my daughter, and then he never wants to talk to any of them. Just wants to sort of give me a real hard time.
Well,
So we stopped going over there, and he sent me a text recently because he was getting a call from like a blocked number, and he says, "Are you okay?" And the next sentence he says, "I don't want you to think our relationship is okay. I'm just worried if you're all right." So I texted him, "Yeah, I'm fine," and that was it. So I don't know what's going on
so
with that guy.
to be fair, I know this is kind of like the worst sort of encouragement, but to encourage you, my dad does the same thing, but mine is like he doesn't even have to drink. He just does that
Oh,
naturally.
yeah, that's rough. Cause he'll
But
get me
like,
drunk and then, or he'll get drunk and then he'll give me like a glass of wine, so I can't just like drive away. And then recently, the last time I just didn't take the wine, and I was just like, you know what, we're leaving. Because essentially what happened was I went to a dinner party with his fiance's sister's house. It's where the Jewish guy is. It's where the kind of gravelly guy is, and
uh-huh.
his family, a bunch of graveler kids. And I was sitting at the dinner table with, I guess, babbler would be the right word, but they start talking about like NASA and science shit, and I was quiet. And then this military guy, I was talking to him, and I was like, we were talking about like we started talking about conspiracies, and he was receptive to it, but I don't know if he ratted on me. He probably didn't. But he was saying, "Well, do you think the Earth is flat?" And I don't want to be trapped in a binary of, yeah, it's flat or yeah, it's a fucking ball spinning. So what I said was, I'm not sure. It could be a lot of things, but to me, it appears like it is flat. And that got me that went up to my dad's fiance, went up to my dad, and that got my dad to drunkenly point at me and say, "Fuck you, fuck you, fuck you. If the Earth is flat, there's no science." So that's a disagreement on the shape of the Earth, and I guess part of our reality that doesn't even matter.
Dude,
Is
that's
doing
the
this divide.
scenario I'm about to enter. So October 8th is my sister's rehearsal wedding dinner thingamajigger, and
Right.
then a couple days later is the actual wedding. And I've decided that so me and my sister have not talked for years. So the last time there was a conversation where me and my sister were in the same room was it was me and my mom. We were just Bible nerding on a really specific stuff and talking about Bible nerd stuff. And my sister interrupted the conversation and basically said something along the lines of I don't understand what you're talking about. Can we talk about something else now?
Yeah.
And that in conjunction with a lot of her other actions just kind of despite how much I despise that level of cognitive dissonance, she's my sister, my little sister, and I've still tried to build a relationship with her, and she just never responds. And now that she's got this important event in her life, but according to her social laws and stuff, it would be shameful if her brother was not there.
Right.
And
Yeah.
so
Yeah. I got you.
I
Oh,
understand how these things work, and so my mom kind of delivered the olive branch, your sister really wants you here, blah blah blah, and I was like, all right, yeah, cool, I'll be there, but what if I don't wear a suit? Because I just want to see what happens, to be honest.
what if I wear sweatpants with a belt buckle?
Well, no, so I plan on wearing a t-shirt and gym shorts. I shit you
That's
not.
not even pretending to be formal.
So the first reaction is going to be the rehearsal dinner because everyone's going to be dressed up all to the nines, and I'm just going to show up just normal. And I want to see what happens because if I start getting the how dare yous because of how I dress, then I've got an easy win. Oh, so you care more about how I'm what clothes I'm wearing than whether or not I'm here? That's interesting. And so I'm working on just calmly just disarming these things because I know it's gonna be a very high emotional tension scenario. And to add on all of this, one of my nuclear bomb rhetorical things I cannot use because my sister's fiance, his whole business is literally based off of slave labor in China. And because I know I don't want to make my sister cry. I just want to be funny. I can't use my
Is he
best joke.
is he a Chinese?
Well, no, he's American. It's just he uses drop shipping and Chinese slave labor for his
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
production
yeah,
chain.
yeah. There's a lot of
Like
stuff,
I
a lot like that.
about a year ago, I asked him to go to lunch with me. So he has literally never tried at all to make any Brianna welcome. He's never tried at all to make any sort of relationship with me or even be my friend in any way, shape, or form. But I've reached out to him a couple of times, and so the last time I was asking him about his business and just because I was curious, I wanted to figure out. And turns out he uses slave labor from China, and I was just polite. But now that I know that, that's the main thing I want to use, but I can't use it because if I embarrass the fiance or the husband or whatever, the groom, that much, that's just bad form. So it's oh, I can make you cry, but that's this is your wedding, so I can't do that. So that among other things is I'm trying to just really think about the words that I'm about to use like 2 weeks from now, because I don't want to like overly embarrass anyone, but at the same time, I'm not going to lie. And so I'm trying to find like that balance, you know?
Hear you. I hear you loud and clear. But yeah, man, the earth, I mean, it's such bullshit. Like I was telling my wife, I was like, dude, I didn't say dude, but I said, does it affect their lives at all? Not really, so why the hell they care?
It does affect their lives, because the more lies that you believe, the more natural cognitive distance you have in the rest of your life. And the more lies
The
you
more you get
believe,
used to a state of like left is right and up is down.
yeah, so like so just a completely hypothetical example, like let's say that you believe 5 lies, and then you see a half-naked girl, and you're like, oh, that's gross. I only want to see my wife in the confines of the bedroom like that.
Uh-huh.
But for a woman to present herself like that in public, that's gross. Ugh. But then you believe 10 lies, and you're
Oh,
like, oh,
more.
kind of hot. And
Uh-huh.
then you
Yep.
believe 15 lies, and you're like,
Your pants around your ankles and you're beating off.
squirt. And then you see, like, you believe 20 lies, and you're like, pants around the
Yep.
ankles, squirt city.
Yep.
And
And
so,
then,
like,
but then here's the
obviously
thing
that's
though.
a super
Once,
hyperbolic example,
no, I don't
but
think so. I think hyperbolic is once you believe 50 lies. Then when you see one walking down the street, you're just like, you know what I
well,
mean?
yeah. But like that being said, the basic principle still holds true that the more lies that you believe in, whatever that lie may be, that makes you more susceptible, spiritually speaking, in a variety of other ways. And that's the main danger of believing in the NASA lie or the globe Earth or like transgender or whatever the lie may be. Like the more lies you believe in, like whether or not you're consciously aware of how weak you're becoming because you're believing these lies, it still hurts you. And like the heartbreaking thing about it is most of these lies, like for example, like Black Lives Matter. Obviously, when we look at any of the stats, any of the numbers, Black Lives Matter is the most nonsense movement
Right.
ever. But that being said, the people who support Black Lives Matter legitimately think that black people are shot at a disproportionate rate and like targeted and hunted by cops, like LeBron James says. Like
Yes, it's reality to them, but it's not really real.
it's
It's their own
completely
reality.
nonsense, but they legitimately believe these things, and
Right.
they're legitimately terrified. And then obviously there's other people that are just paid to be protesters, and obviously there's tons of other nuances, etc., etc. But like the
And it's a
weakest
lie.
people of BLM legitimately believe the nonsense, and so
Exactly.
like understanding like if that's where you are, then what's the best, instead of me just spouting facts, if I spout facts to someone in that fragile of a mental state, that might legitimately break their mind.
I think it
So it's
probably
like,
would.
all
They'd be
right,
like, ah, get away from me. Oh my
yeah, so
God.
it's like, yes, yes, you're kind of a retard, yes, like you don't understand anything, but I'm not going to say that to you because that would literally break your mind. So what's the like
But
most honest and gentle way to guide you back to the path of truth? And like that's what I think a lot of the bears like, that's what we want, but because like so many of us have so much information, that's one of our weaknesses
tell
is
me,
we have
yeah.
so much information, we can't quite guide people gently as they need to be guided, you know?
Right. I hear you. Yeah, Bajo Bear says, BLM. Oh my God, I don't care about blacks. Yeah, and you know why? Because all of his people, they move into a black neighborhood and turn Hispanic. So they're like, yeah,
Well,
let's get it.
yeah, exactly. So, but I was thinking we should start a organization called Black Lives Don't Matter. And the whole purpose of Black Lives Don't Matter is to actually help black people.
That's a next level move right there.
Dude,
So this
according to
this organization,
Hegelian dialectic, that's literally how shit works.
it's like this organization, like they tell me to be like a good dad and all this stuff, but their name is Black Lives Don't Matter. It's like, but they're trying to make me be like a good, respectable human. well, I guess human's a word for like log gravel.
Well,
I don't know.
dude, the
You know what I
funniest
mean?
thing about that is if you were able to actually sell that to some high-profile investors to actually get like a fiscal backing to make it like a countrywide movement, like a national movement, that's what would mind fuck the shit out of everybody. Because like if
Uh-huh.
it's just me, I make a website and I try and like give money to the homeless guy down the street, no one's gonna care. But
Right,
like
right,
if it
right.
could actually become a national movement with like legit investing, dude, it would like completely change the zeitgeist. It would be hilarious.
Because that's true. That is the opposite. What's going on with Black Lives Matter is they're saying, oh, Black Lives.
Yeah.
So yeah, it would. I mean, it sounds so like foreign, but it's the exact same thing that's going on currently. You know?
Well, that's why it's so
Yeah,
funny. It's because it's so obvious.
yeah. I was thinking, you know how the Freemasons, they all have like a pyramid, and then the first stack is always the biggest because that's the nature of a pyramid. I think that's how, like, once you accept that first lie, the first lie took the most work because you were kind of, you didn't have it yet, and then once you get up the pyramid of lies, then it gets like a lot easier to accept the lies because you've already accepted so many. Does that
Well,
make sense
yeah.
to you?
Why do you think pornos are pumped into all these countries? Why do you think,
Yeah,
statistically
exactly,
speaking, 99% of American males watch pornos?
exactly. So then,
The
but
first
if
lie gets you into all the other lies. So the pornos has about 1,000 lies just by jacking off to strippers and like runaways for drug money. So it's like, yes, this is the most logical way to get our victim to subscribe and agree with the most amount of lies within a singular act of jacking off.
do you think
It's
that there's
evil genius.
do you think that there exists a base foundation lie that once you accept it, you'll start to accept more? Like, is it just the pornos, or is there like an actual base
Yes,
across peoples?
there is a base lie across all of humankind. Do as thou wilt.
Right.
Like, it's literally that basic. Because even the most honorable, holy Christian, like, do as thou wilt means that at any point in time, even the most honorable Christian, if they slip up in any way, shape, or form and do what they want over what the holy and like God honoring thing is to do, that's like even though
That's the
that's a
lie.
super gray and small area, that's the definition of do as thou wilt. And then on the opposite end of the equation, murdering and fucking and just like hedonistic to the max, that's also do as thou wilt. And
Do
thus,
you
that's
think
why
that's
do as
what?
thou wilt is the foundational basic lie.
Do you think that's what Jacob was sort of not?
So I've literally never considered that before, but that is a surprise. So right now you're kind of loading and like kind of really breaky. So that's why I'm interrupting you. That's why I'm interrupting you right now. Is because you're breaky and like you're loading, and so I want to hear what you're saying. But your basic hypothesis that you're putting forth right now is that Jacob was putting forth like this old "do as thou wilt." Was that like the whole argument? Oh,
Yes,
you're back. You're
I'm
back.
thinking that that could have possibly been. I'm back. Okay,
So what
I
I
might be
was
going
saying
in
is
and out
correct.
for a second.
So you're saying that I
Yeah,
am
can you hear me?
addressing your concern accurately?
Yes. Because
Perfect.
my
Perfect.
question was if there's a base to it and that's the base, possibly that's what Jacob was trying to. He was trying to build that base of that lie, and was being told not to.
Yeah, like, and so I totally get where you're coming from, but just because of how like breaky everything is, I want to make sure we're on the
Yeah,
same
we're on the
page
same page. We're on the same
before I
page.
move forward with my hypothesis. Because, like I
Awesome.
said, I've never considered this before, so I want to make sure we're on the same page.
Perfect.
And that is a really good hypothesis, do as thou wilt, because when you look at it, right after that moment, Israel was like sending all these flocks, and there was this whole like ritualistic ceremony of like forgiveness and like atonement. Like, hey man, Esau, I'm sorry I like fucked you out of your birthright, and like all these other things. Like because that's literally what Israel was terrified of at that moment. Was like, I screwed my brother out of so many things because I was a trickster, and now he's got according to the Bible, he's got 400 men coming to greet me. I'm terrified and I don't want to die. I may be rich and like a special boy and have lots of like flocks and like herds, but I don't have 400 like warriors like my brother does. So I'm gonna send my herds in groups as gifts to try and like placate my brother, because like I kind of screwed him like last time I saw him. Like I fled for a reason. I don't want to die, and
Right.
so like coming from that perspective, like he's feeling guilty for how he listened to his mother and he did as he wanted to. He do as thou wilt, and so I see that as, you're right, that could be a really foundational thing, specifically with the Hebrew nation, because that's literally the patriarch of the Hebrews. Like Israel himself dealt with do as thou wilt in a very significant way. And then even like his father and his grandfather, like Isaac and Ishmael, like that was a whole do as thou wilt. Like God literally gave a promise, but then the father was like, I'm not going to be patient. And then fucks the slave, Hagar. And then, lo and behold, according to the promise of God, through his wife Sarah, he still has like Isaac, the promised child. But because he was impatient, he also had the child. I just said his name. You
Jacob?
get it?
No.
No, not Jacob. Ishmael. Ishmael. So it's
Oh,
like
yeah.
yeah. So what I find interesting is because like according to the biblical testimony, is because of Abraham's impatience or lack of patience, Ishmael was like 13 years old when Isaac was like 3 or 4. Like there was a significant age difference, and so that's one of the reasons why Sarai at the time, I think it was Sarah, maybe it was Sarah, Sarai, same person, you get it, but Ishmael like made fun of Isaac, and Sarah got butthurt about it. And like there's a bunch of drama in the Old Testament. Like if you read, I think it's the Book of Genesis, and it's just interesting because if Abraham or Abram at the time had been patient for like another like 10, 13 years, then tons of the Bible just wouldn't have happened. Like not only like a lot of Canaanite tribes just would have never existed, so the journey to the promised land would have been a lot easier. But then in modern times, there's an argument that all of the Arabs, which are a very violent and low impulse culture, are all the descendants of Ishmael.
So the impatient, the begotten son of the dad's impatience. Is that
Yeah,
who Ishmael was?
and so like the reason why I mention these things, like from times far ago, is because look how crazy an impact in world history. I'm a crazy person. Look at the crazy impact that like that one decision where Abraham was not patient, he didn't trust the Lord in one scenario, and how it's had significant repercussions for literally thousands of years. And so Jesus says that no one can predict the time in which he returns. So hypothetically, like whatever sort of like genealogy or patriarchy or whatever that like whatever family structure like you and I set up, that could arguably last for hundreds of years. And like what we do today could like resonate for hundreds of years. We don't know. And like that's
That's
really
why you
humbling.
should stay the path, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
Because you could create a bunch of, for lack of a better word, savages. Like
Well, it's like,
without really knowing, or
do you
without
want your
intending
offspring to be squirt boys, or do you want
No.
your offspring to be crushers?
Yeah, that's an easy choice. But then going through and doing what you got to do is where that's where the tougher kind of struggle comes in, because you're like, hey man, I just want to do what I want, and I want to get all this money, and I want to take in debt, and I want to multiply my returns. Come on, why can't I just do that, please? Oh my God. Like I get that whole, I fucking hell. I really understand that whole mindset where it's just like, but like if I have $10,000 and I can only buy $10,000 worth, they won't appreciate as much if I buy $30,000 but $10,000 down, and I pay 6% interest on 20,000 and I make 8% return. I make so much more money. Like I get that. I understand that, and I don't want to, you know what I mean? Like that makes perfect sense. It's just
that mindset comes from somewhere, though. And because everything comes from somewhere, the same thing applies to God-honoring habits. So, like, for me specifically, I've got some hiccups, so forgive me. But for me specifically, honoring God starts with listening to the Bible and reading the Bible and intaking as much of God's word as I can. And Bahaber's like, Jesus, the hiccups.
Is that what the Mexican people's at their struggle? They buy a bunch of Mazdas. Is that what I'm getting from Bajo Bear? I almost want to get a Miata. I almost damn myself.
And so it's like, while
you're in a Miata right now, be honest.
So like the average person has this, like the average father has this desire to raise their kids in the perfect best way possible.
Right.
And that's a big goal. But what a lot of fathers, like the reason why a lot of fathers fail at achieving that big goal is because they don't chop up that big goal into a bunch of small daily goals. Because it's the daily interactions that really have a lasting impact. And so
I like the F2 and F350. My boss has, well, they keep fucking getting stolen, but I like those trucks. They sound very mean, and they can haul.
Well, so a good analogy here is it's a quote I've read a couple.
Talking to Bajo, I think.
Word, but so this quote is a quote that's really potent in context of this conversation. I've read it a couple of times before, but it seems to be appropriate now. Don't search for actually, I'll pull it up so you can read it as I read it. Don't search for defining moments. Your defining moments have already happened to you, and they will continue to have already happened. Life passes by too quickly to get caught in the past. And I feel like that applies. What's up?
Did you is that your quote? Or is that
no, I picked it up somewhere. I don't remember where.
All right.
I did not write that myself. I'm not that smart.
Oh, well. All right.
But it makes a lot of sense because, like, just like in my life, like when I look back, all these like really important things that changed my life in a variety of ways. At the time, I was just in the moment reacting, doing my thing. But looking back, I was like, whoa, I'm really glad I did this, or I wish I did this better, you know?
I used to do that, like with, like for example, if there was a girl that I liked and I went to go talk to her and I completely fucked up, I'd be like, man, I wish I could time travel. I would have said this. Or like when I was trying to get all the women, but I had just lost a bunch of weight, started working out, but I was still very shy. So like these chicks would like throw it at me, and I'd be like, "Oh fuck, I'd get home and be like, oh man, did she really say that? Oh fucking hell, I missed out." I'd be like, I wish I could travel back. So yeah,
So
don't
every
do that. But
time,
I get the point. But
yeah, yeah.
don't use it for.
So I know you're married, so this doesn't apply to you. But for those single bears out there, every time that you fail picking up on a chick or whatever, that means one of two things. Either A, that girl's not right for you, or B, you're not ready for a God-honoring relationship yet.
That for me, it was probably. Well, I can't say if they weren't right for me. That's probably God knows, because I never knew. I never really got to know them, but it was definitely
Well, you've
probably
got a
both
wife
actually.
now, bro.
Yes, so it was definitely both, because I was not ready for the actual relationship, and also like I was such a retard. Like people like girls would come and like say hi to me, and I'd be like, oh, this is just what they do for everybody. So,
Yeah, like, dude, like, when I had a motorcycle, girls would literally leave their number on my motorcycle, like, all
and
the
you'd be
fucking
like,
time.
oh, they messed up, they weren't, or like just freeze up. Yeah,
Yeah, so it's
I'm
like,
not saying that,
yes, it can be a combination of the two,
right.
or one or the other, but either way, whatever, like, for whatever reason you failed picking up a girl, for those single bears, like, God's helping you out.
Yes.
Because, like, hypothetically speaking, let's say you just try to hit on, like, the woman, like, that God intends for you to marry, but you're an idiot right now, and God allowed you to fail at picking her up because He knows you're an idiot, and He doesn't want you to fuck that up for the rest of your life. So you being an idiot in the short term is going to save you long term, because 6 months from now, you're not going to be so much of an idiot. You're going to re-meet this chick, and then you're going to kick it off and have a happily ever after. That's a legitimate hypothesis here. So, like, for all you single bears, like, when you strike out, do not get discouraged, because God has your best intentions at heart. Fact.
At least you swung, unless like you were just some. Yeah, maybe if you weren't ready, you didn't swing. But when
Yeah,
you swing for the fences.
of course that
You got
doesn't
to.
mean don't try. Like, but, like, what I'm saying is, if you're trying, do not get discouraged if
Of
you
course.
fail in the attempt,
Right.
because
Right. Right.
God has a better plan for you.
Every every.
Because as a single bear myself, I know how, like, disheartening that can be, where it's like, oh, I just got the courage, I just asked this girl out, and she said no. Oh, that's
Yeah,
a blessing in disguise.
I've
Like,
been there.
praise the Lord for that, because He just saved you from an inconvenient situation.
I believe it. For sure, if I would have met my wife in my 20s, wouldn't have worked. Hey, man, well,
Exactly out of time, Bear.
I met my
Fact.
wife in my fucking 19s.
Well, you're fucking
Bro,
lucky.
get
Everybody's
on my
got a
level,
unique
bro.
journey.
I'm just fucking with you. I'm not that guy.
I met my wife when I was 12, and we were middle school sweethearts, and we have the perfect love game. So fuck
Exactly.
you.
Exactly. And yeah, and also we have like 100 kids, and our kids at 12, they had a lunch route, or not a lunch route, paper route, and they all bought properties around our property. So actually, we have a little city.
I'm only
That can't be beat.
35, but I already have great grandkids, and we've built an entire town. So fuck you.
Oh shit. Yeah, that's gonna be hard to top. Like, I'm 40, and I've got a small army. I tell them what to do a couple times. They're all my children, children, grandchildren, great grandchildren. See, now one of my buddies, like, he's really good at trading stock, and I'm interested in that stuff too. So whenever we get together, we talk about that stuff. But I sent him a text, and I was like, dude, you can make all the money on stock, but imagine if you had 300 grandkids. He didn't respond. I was like, oh, come on, man, you don't know where the real power is at, do you?
Yeah, I had a similar experience with one of my buddies, one of my closest buddies from high school. So when he joined the Marine Corps because of me, I went to artillery, and then I deployed to Afghanistan with the infantry, and he went air winger. And for those of you that don't know about, like, military, like, the air wing is like super pansy, and the infantry is like kind of like really rough. And then I happen to have like the roughest deployment since the initial invasion of Afghanistan, or of Iraq, and it was super crazy. And then after my buddy got out of the Marine Corps, he moved to New York, a super liberal city. And between like when we were in high school, like we vibed, we were best friends. But between him going to the Air Wing and then moving to New York, like he literally lost his mind. And he still claims to be like a conservative. Like, he claims to be fiscally conservative but socially liberal.
Right.
Is his
So
line.
yeah, that's actually my dad pretty much. But I know that sort of mindset.
Yeah.
It's like, well, when they're doing this, it doesn't, it doesn't hurt anybody. It's like, oh, come on, man.
But
Like,
dude, like the mind is just fucking gone. It's
yeah,
like the love of money. I understand that now.
because it really is. It's almost like you're selling off your values with the fiscally conservative, not economic, social liberal. You're pretty much saying, I have a price, and it is a 0% tax rate. It's like, well, come on, you fucker. That's your price.
If the social liberals say that pedophilia is okay as long as my annual bank statement is continually increasing, then I don't care.
Yeah, so that's the price. Because then, like, I mean, I was like that. I think at 18, maybe 18 to 19, I was like, there's no problems with I was like a fucking Charlie Kirk clone. There's no problems with the capitalism. It's awesome. And then, like, now I'm looking back at like 2 years ago. I bet a lot of you older guys would look back at like even 2-3 years ago and be like, what the fuck was I thinking? So I'm probably gonna look back at myself now and be like, I really thought that. Jeez, I'm a fucking retard. How did I?
Oh yeah.
You know what
Well,
I mean?
like that's the beauty of being honest with yourself. Is every couple of years you can look back and like so even like right now, I feel like I'm super based, super red pilled, super Homestead
Exactly.
pilled, black pilled, etc., etc.
Thing,
But
I've always felt that way.
so like right now, looking back at like even a year ago, I was like, wow, a year ago PJ is fucking retarded.
Right.
But an easy way for me to like very easily identify how retarded I am right now, I'm struggling with growing crops. And so right now, like I'm on my third little starter set of like growing like plants and these little things as seedlings before I transfer them. But like long story short, I've got like an anti-green thumb. And so like a year from now, once I learn how to grow things, then I'm gonna look to myself now and be like, wow, that guy was a retard. He couldn't even grow a fucking tomato.
Yeah,
And
but that's something
on
that you
with
know
your
about.
entire life. Like the more you grow, the more you learn, you're gonna continually look back and be like, oh, I was a retard back then. That's just part of life, you know?
I think that kind of lets you know that you're not fully retarded. You're like, well, man, what I was thinking back then is it's real silly. Because I bet there's some people that don't even know. They just don't realize it. They're just like, yeah, who cares? I'm on to the next thing.
I like
You know what I mean?
I like the way you just specifically said that because the majority of people aren't even willing to like admit that they're retarded in like one topic or another. So it's like one thing that triggers most of my friends is like we'll be talking about like XYZ and then like I just like go balls to the walls and just like drop tons of knowledge and just like shame everybody with like some geopolitical bullshit because I'm a nerd. And then like they're like, oh blah blah, you're so smart. I'm like, no, dude, I'm a fucking retard when it comes to all sports, all this, all that. Like I do like these are my strengths and these are my weaknesses. In some ways, I'm way smarter than you. In other ways, I'm a fucking retard. That's kind of how people work. And so because so many people are not willing to admit that they're retarded in particular topics, I find that so interesting because so many of the bears are just like, oh yeah, like in topics 1, 2, 3, I'm a fucking genius. In topics 4, 5, 6, I'm a retard. In topics 7, 8, 9, I have average intelligence. And that's how literally everybody is.
Right.
But
I've got a little I've got a bit of the Vox Day disease. That guy's so spatially retarded that I hear from the Kurgan. I was listening to a live stream that he has to have his wife, like when they travel, he has to have his wife pack his suitcase because he can't his spatial reasoning is so low, and I'm like the clumsiest motherfucker in the world. Like I'll drop everything. If you think there's something that can't be dropped, I'll knock it over. I'll drop it. But then like once I get to like doing math or testing, I'm like really good. It's like, oh, but then, you know, the simplest shit, like, oh, how do you not drop the mug? It just breaks. I drop it somehow. That's like the joke that
It
my
was
wife
in my
said.
hand, and then my hand just stopped
Oh
holding it.
yeah.
I can't explain
Yeah,
it.
let me
It
let
just
me let me
happened,
tell you
bro.
a story. So I was drinking my coffee one morning, and then what happened was when I went to pick the mug up and put it to my mouth to drink the coffee, I sound like a fucking robot. Pick mug, grab handle, sip. But as I was doing that in the process, somehow I
No
jerked it wrong.
function, drop mug.
No, not even drop. I took the handle off the mug midstream. So as I was lifting it, I took the handle off the mug. I'm holding a broken handle, and the mug hits the floor. My wife comes in and says, "What the hell happened?" And I'm looking at her holding the handle, like, "What the fuck? What happened here?" So I've got some big fucking problems when it comes to that shit. You
That's
know what I
hilarious.
mean? And I told her, I was like, yeah, I picked the handle up and it broke. And she's like, I've drunk from this mug. There's no way. I'm like, oh, come on. So if something can't be dropped, I find a way to drop it. So I've got something going on there. There's like an economic theory where it's like a balloon. Picture a balloon, and if you squeeze the balloon in one area, it expands in another. So maybe like if you're really, really stupid and clumsy, like maybe your intelligence will act like that balloon and expand in another way.
I
Some
feel like with your super special power of like super clumsiness,
of breaking stuff.
you would be a really good double agent, kind of like Jar Jar Binks, where he accidentally
I'm
continually
a
fucks
retard.
up,
Da, 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 da,
but like
da.
does the right thing every time.
Exactly. Yeah.
I
I
think that's
get
your
you.
superpower, bro.
Like you can kind of like trick people into. You know what? That was my pretty much my whole childhood. In like junior high, I could make myself laugh like a crazy. I sounded like a crazy retard, and I had everybody in my school pretty much convinced that I was an idiot, to the point that they would treat me like this, like I was stupid. And then I had like an identity crisis where I went to my mom and I was like, "Mom, am I really stupid? Like everybody at school is telling me I'm stupid. Am I stupid?" And she's like, she freaked out and was like, "Who's telling you you're stupid?" That I was being bullied, but it was my fault because I was acting like an idiot, like dropping stuff. But then it took me a real long time to get over thinking I was actually very, very dumb.
Yeah, like I never thought I was dumb, but most of like me in high school, I purposefully acted stupider than I was just so I could fit in. And
I think
then
I did some of that too.
yeah,
I
like
took it
after high
overboard though.
school,
I started.
I just
It's a
stopped
lie
giving
though,
a
right?
shit.
Because it is a
It's
lie
like
when you're
after high
doing
school,
that.
I just stopped giving a shit.
There you go.
And most of my high school friends were like, "Dude, you've changed so much. Like blah blah blah. How dare you? Blah blah blah." And I was like, "No, dude, I just stopped being a retard."
Right. Because if you break that down, dumbing yourself down, acting stupid to fit in is, I would consider it a lie. So you are kind of. I got to the wizard level where I believed my own lie to the point where it was like causing me pain. I was like, oh God, is this real? So it's like,
Yo,
that's like the ultimate, the end stage of a wizard, and it happened to me at 13. And I think I got out of it. So that's great. That also might be why I don't, people are like, oh, are you 23? What the fuck? Because I think I've gone through like a whole fucking curve that takes some people like 20 years to get through. I'm just like, holy shit, am I actually stupid? Like I keep acting like a retard. Is this actually who I am? And I had like a whole identity crisis.
yeah,
And
dude,
then,
like more power to you for being able to get through that at an earlier stage in life. And like that's why so many guys and like so many bears are like, "Whoa, he's only 23 and he's this smart." Like for me, I'm 30, and it took me going to a war and seeing like the worst shit imaginable for me to begin waking the fuck up. And for you to be able to see those things so early in life without exposure to that level of trauma is an insane blessing.
That's crazy, man. War is insane. Like,
Yeah,
especially as it is now. War is insane because it's like fucking Afghanistan. I can name it on a map, but I've played a lot of paradox games where you fucking stare at a map for about 20 hours and then you like conquer shit. So I know maps pretty well, but like the average guy doesn't fucking know the place on a map. So we're fucking invading these places. Yikes. I don't want to be a part of any war if I'm not fighting on my own land, essentially. Because
yeah,
then it's like you're actually defending your family. You know what I mean? If you're just like, I don't know, dude. You probably dealt with a lot of this stuff, right? I
yeah,
don't
dude.
know. Would it be guilt?
Like sending your best warriors to the other side of the world to fight a war in a country that most of your average civilians can't like point out on a map, and then fun addition, your industrial ability of your country didn't even get the contracts to the mineral sources. China got all the contracts to the mineral sources in Afghanistan, even though American military fought all the battles and lost all the lives. Surprise!
Yeah, exactly. Oh, ta-da! We got you.
Like,
That's.
that was one of the
Did
big
you?
things for me to get over
Did
was
you?
understanding. So, like, when I first joined the Marine Corps, I thought I was doing something super honorable and like et cetera, et cetera. I was so brainwashed. And like after I got out, I started learning way more, and it's been a really, I guess, like a difficult hurdle for me, like emotionally. Is
But getting over that is probably what would keep you for, I guess, to say in logos. That would keep you kind of on the
yeah,
path is getting over it, because if you don't, there's going to be that nasty cognitive dissonance, especially like how traumatic it must be. I remember you telling the story of you lost friends and then you went kind of Rambo with the
yeah.
cruisers or whatever. So that's
5 days
like
without sleep, bro. That was fucking adventure.
right. So that I think getting over that is probably um, going to be a big hurdle. But once you get over that big hurdle, the other one's not going to be as big, I don't think, in
Yeah, like
civilian
I
life.
think I'm there now because I
Awesome.
understand. Like, yes, I was deceived, and despite my level of deception, that like I did the best I could under the lies that I was believing at the time. And now that
And had you, if you were to go back to yourself before you enlisted, knowing what you know now, I'm sure you would have been like, wait a second, this
yeah,
isn't going to help out America. Fuck this.
exactly. I would not have enlisted. I would have started a YouTube channel on like something. And
Right.
imagine, so I graduated high school in 2008. Most YouTube channels that I know of that have been consistent since 2008
Are doing very well.
have over 1 million subscribers and make tens of thousands of dollars per month.
Nice. That's a good place to be off
So
YouTube.
if I had the knowledge I have now in 2008 when I graduated high school, I would have taken a different path. But that being said, I'm really thankful for the path that God has laid out for me because I have a really unique set of experiences that most people don't have.
Right.
There's a
So
lot of people that
I've
are
got an
still
idea.
deceived.
So
What's
if
up?
you, let's say you were Amish, right? And then the Amish are like, hey, we need, they're never going to do this because they're like in a safe area or whatever. They have their own shit. We're like, we need an Amish military. And all it's going to do is we're going to like build our own guns. We're going to build our own fortresses. And then we're just going to defend what we have. That's like that would be, I think, a very honorable, very awesome military. Because it's like, well, should we go conquer the Presbyterians over here? They have their own little fortress. You'd be like, no, we're Amish. We don't want to take them over. We're just going to defend what we've got. And that's like the opposite of the American military. But military is like that. Like I bet you could get it back. Like you don't have to be this rapacious force,
Yeah, dude.
extracting the whole
Polar
world like
bear
a fucking
gorilla
octopus.
hit it straight on the head.
What do you think?
You wouldn't be you if you didn't go through what you have.
Yes, that is true.
100 agree. 100% agree.
Do you think that changes your? No, it can't. I was just gonna ask. Do you think it changes your genetics, like traumatic experiences like that? Because
Well,
it
so
always is in
traumatic
your head.
experiences, according to scientific studies, it doesn't change. It doesn't change your genetic structure.
But it sure
However,
does change
there,
your behavior. That's for sure.
yes. So there are some studies that support the concept that very traumatic events unlock like hidden genes, etc.,
Uh huh.
and like there actually is like a legitimate like science base behind this. But like for the vast majority of people, exposure to that level of trauma is not good.
Of course. I mean, yeah. It's like that's that's the thing. Like I think Big Bear sort of touched on this, where it's he had a very traumatic childhood, and a lot of people have. And some people, they kind of like my mom's an example of this. They take that trauma and they just kind of go a little bit nuts, for lack of better words. But you know what I mean? They kind of get like you also your friend. They kind of lose their mind and get really caught up with something, and then maybe that in their mind that alleviates their trauma, but it actually isn't really cutting the root of the issue. It's just kind of window dressing,
Hmm.
just in their own head.
And so, like polar bears saying berserker DNA, and then island time bears saying memories get passed in butterflies. They say, and the reason why I bring both of those comments up right now is because they're both connected. Like there are multiple studies that have been done where there is generational DNA, and beyond science, the Bible says that there
Million
are
years,
such
maybe.
things called generational sins. And the Bible speaks extensively about how the behavior of a father can have direct repercussions with a son going on into multiple generations.
You want
And
to? Yeah. I'll let you talk. Hold on.
let's say that the father went $10 million in debt, and according to this current like legalistic system that we live in, that debt would pass on to the son. So if the father had $10 million in debt, then the son inheriting that debt would be generationally fucked. And so that's a very obvious example, but when we talk about
The untouchables in India, allegedly.
yeah, like India is a great example of this. But like generational sins is a very nuanced topic, and so that's why I don't
We're
want to
not
make
just talking about debt here.
exactly. And so it's like that's one of the reasons why I think the Zoomers are such a strong generation is because the uh, the immediate generations after the Boomers and like the Silent Generation were in the process of overcoming a lot of societal programming, and the Zoomers are just like at the very beginning of getting out of it, where they're like, oh yeah, obviously the Holocaust is bullshit.
Right. And you shouldn't be watching the news
Yep,
unless
one
you
of those things.
have it really in your head that you're watching like complete retards arguing over bullshit. Because
Also,
if you
brother, FYI, we've got about a minute and a half left. I've already gone,
yeah,
like, this is the third hour. Normally, I only go 2 hours. But just FYI, we've got like a minute and a half left, like 2 minutes left. Because it's bedtime for this bear.
I'll go live if anybody wants to come over.
All right.
Yeah.
All bears, I'm about to go to bed. Go to, not Bajo Bear, Bell River.
Bill.
Everyone go to
Yeah.
Bell River Bear.
But if you don't follow me, I'll figure something out. I have like 57 requests. I don't want to. I don't know. I can't be
Oh,
bothered.
you're just too popular, bro.
Ah, maybe. I don't know. I don't give a shit. I don't want to have too many people seeing my posts because I post like my family and stuff. You know.
For sure, I feel. All
Yeah,
right,
because
guys. Nobody's
I'm doing
popped
my
up.
walks. I'll go back up live. Good talking to you, Jap Bear. Always a good time.
Farewell, everyone. It was a wonderful evening, and we shall continue this conversation tomorrow. Good night, everybody, and God bless.